Hey, what up, fam? It's Coach Sean here. I'm gonna give you guys a minute to jump in. I'm a little early. It's not quite 2 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be in about 30 seconds here, but I thought I would go ahead and just hop on and let you guys join in on the room here. And then once we get to that 2 o'clock time, I'll start, popping in, getting started here. Okay, now it's officially 2. All right, 2 Eastern. So what's up, everybody? I'm Coach Sean. I've been doing this for about 17 years. I myself have taken myself through transformation, grew up overweight, grew up eating out all the time. My grandparents raised me. And so meal prep wasn't really ever a thing. Whenever I was in high school, my first strategy to losing weight was just cutting my portions down. So instead of getting a triple cheeseburger from Wendy's, I started doing single burgers, and it worked. And I was also doing sports, so, and I was also a teenager, so I was, working. But then after school got over with and I got working in the real world, I put a bunch of weight back on, and that's when I hired a trainer, and they started teaching me about how to eat really bland food. But I followed it. I was determined, but then I yo-yoed back and I'd binge and I'd go back and forth. I actually ended up doing 3 bodybuilding competitions, winning 2 of them and getting a pro card. And then, I just kind of went on this cycle until I found this just unique way to meal prep and to really enjoy food. And honestly, it became this thing where I had to really do an identity shift. And that's kind of the core root of all of this. We're gonna dive into the nitty gritty and the blueprint, but at the end of the day, you've got to be able to, become that new person and think of yourself as that person that makes the healthy options. And for me, I never really, got that way in the past until I finally started to transition into a new identity. And then it became a lot more natural. So the combination of that with this meal prep method, the mindset with the meal prep method really just kind of came into unison, and I've been able to, maintain the body that I want. And I'm happy with where I'm at, I go on little mini cuts here and there if I want to get a little bit leaner, but for the most part, I'm able to sustain what I want to sustain and eat what I want to eat. So, and that's really the magic behind all this. So let's talk about, let's just get into this, guys, okay? So go ahead, if you're in the comments, raise your hand if this might be you. You start meal prepping on Sunday, you buy a bunch of healthy food, you make it for about 3 days, and then by Wednesday, you might be rolling through some fast food, right? So, I definitely understand. And, the thing about this is the goal is not perfection, okay? The goal is just make healthy eating very easy, okay? And enough, it's not actually that you'll stick with it, but I've got some notes here I'm going to go through that I've taken, and I'm going to talk first about kind of like why most people fail at meal plans, okay? So here's why most people quit. People think they have got to have these fancy recipes, a big variety of foods. They think that they need to spend hours in the kitchen. They think that they need different meals every day, and they think that they're never going to be able to eat out again. And none of that is true. So successful people actually just kind of do less. They really simplify it down. And that's the name of the game. I'm going to tell you a little story about me today, okay? So and then what I'm going to do is you've got to stick to the end, because at the end I'm going to overlay kind of the overarching idea and principles around this and the science behind it and why you should prioritize things in a certain way, okay? So today, I got up at 5 a.m. like I always do because I'm a personal trainer, and that's just how I'm wired. I'm an early morning person. I don't have in-person clients anymore. I do everything with V-Shred now online, but I still get up at 5 a.m. I make some coffee, and I put some stevia in it, which is a 0-calorie sweetener, and I drink that coffee, and I drink water with it, and that's pretty much what I consume in the beginning of my days on most days. I don't really do breakfast, and then typically I go to a coffee shop and continue working after the kids go to school or babysitter or whatever that might be. between 9 and 11 o'clock, 11:30. And that's usually when my hunger cue starts to step in. And that's when I will go and either have a prepared lunch, but oftentimes it's something that's very, very simple, a very quick and go-to type of meal. So if I'm out and about, I might have a wrap. So it might be, a low carb tortilla, or if I can have the carbs, a regular tortilla or bread or a low carb bread. Again, it kind of depends on your specific portion size and how much a day that you should eat, but something like that. And then I'll either have chicken that I've already prepared, sliced up really thin, or I might go and get some chicken from a local grocery store from the deli counter. And that's, and I'll add some hot sauce, things like that to it. Vegetables if I've got them, and I've kind of got this cold thing pre-packed and made, and that's my lunch. And then after that, tonight we're gonna do pork tenderloin with some vegetables, and then I've got a little dark chocolate saved for the end of the night. But here's the thing, okay? It's really two things that you really have to follow: your calories and your protein. And even if you don't want to follow the calories, some people just don't have the bandwidth to count calories, and I understand that. Then it really just comes down to, first and foremost, you've got to be able to track your protein. That protein is the foundation. So that's going to be the thing that moves the needle. That's going to be the thing that restores you. There's what we call macronutrients. So you have your protein, your carbs, and your fats, okay? Those are your macros. They all make up your total calories. Fat and carbs, your body doesn't need those things, okay? They do help. They're an energy source. So it's kind of like a house. If you're living in your house with no electricity and no heat and the utilities are turned off, that's kind of like no carbs and no fats. But the protein is the necessary macronutrient that you need to survive. So if you take the protein away, it's like taking the foundation out of a house, and it's going to crumble down to the ground and die. So you've got to have the protein. That's what repairs and rebuilds your tissues. And you've got to have that, not just protein, but you have to have a surplus and a certain amount of protein to then not only help you survive, but then to also help you build muscle, burn fat, help your metabolism, keep your blood sugar stable. So every meal that you eat, every time you should eat, protein should be the staple and the foundation of your meal in every single meal. If everybody would just eat protein and not even worry about what else they would put on their plate, I'm talking, if you had protein and a candy bar or whatever it might be, nobody would be diabetic. Everybody would have stable blood sugar. It's when you don't have that protein to slow down the blood sugar. They've done studies over the years, and they've shown that in different animals and people, they've given them, straight sugar, and then they've given them a protein and then the straight sugar. And it's amazing to watch. The blood sugar stays completely stable when you have that protein first. So really make an effort of that. Now, how much protein a day should you eat? There's a few rules. One good and easy way to think of it is, what is your goal weight? Like if you were at your ideal weight, what would that be? And that's how much protein a day you should eat. So like for me, say my goal weight is 220 pounds. I weigh 225 right now, but say it's 220, which is what about is. My protein intake is 220 grams per day. If your goal weight is 140 pounds, then you would have 140 grams of protein per day. Now, another way to look at it is it's usually about a third of your diet. So 35 roughly percentage of your total caloric intake is going to be protein. So if anything at all that you do, please track your protein first. And then some simple ways to think about it is roughly every pound of meat is 100 grams of protein. So, and that's if you're looking at just meat. Obviously we have, protein shakes with like Sculpt Nation. Every scoop's going to be about 25 grams of protein. You've got dairy sources of protein like Greek yogurt, low-fat cottage cheese. You've got some, eggs, things like that. But when you're looking at just kind of a whole actual like protein, whether it be fish or beef or pork, like a lean pork, or whether it be beef, then roughly about a pound is 100 grams of protein, okay? So kind of keep that rule in mind and that as you're going through this, okay? So let me get down into this, all right? So really simplify it down, okay? You've got to figure out, what does your day look like? It really doesn't matter when you eat your meals or the meal timing. What matters is consistency and adherence. So that's the overarching thing. You've got to be able to adhere and stay consistent with it, okay? You don't have to be meal prepping everything every week necessarily. You can, and that's great, but you can also just do really simple stuff. Some days my breakfast is a protein shake and a protein bar. I mean, it might be a ready-made shake like the Fairlife, or it might be a V-Shred, Sculpt Nation shake in a shaker cup, paired up with a protein bar, and that's my breakfast. Or I skip breakfast. My lunch is typically a sandwich, a wrap. Sometimes it's literally just a pound of chicken by itself. I know that sounds crazy, but that's typically where I'm at. And then at dinner time, we have very, very simple meals. I've got 3 kids. They're all involved in sports. I get off of work at 5 o'clock. Football practice is at 6. I help coach the team. And so life is very, very busy. And we don't have time to cook. And who wants to really do meal prep for dinner? Not too many people. So we have these quick go-to type of meals that make it very easy to prepare, to stick, and to go to. Now on the weekends, we can look some things up. We can get fancy with it. We can make some homemade pizzas. If you go into Google and you just search macro-friendly, whatever it might be, just type in macro-friendly and then your favorite meal. It'll have a macro-friendly version of that meal. Might be mac and cheese, might be pizza, might be an Oreo pie, whatever it might be. But there's pretty much a macro-friendly version of every possible thing that you could possibly want to eat. And if you have time to prepare those things and do that type of prep, save it on the weekends, have a little treat. So it's not like you're really having to cheat. That can be something that would be completely satisfying for you. Many nights, I'm taking Greek yogurt, I'm taking PB Fit, which is a lower calorie peanut butter powder, putting it in there, dark chocolate, mixing it up. Boom, I've got myself a little sweet treat at the end of the night. I might sprinkle some sea salt on top. My wife likes to do more of the, Cool Whip with Cool Whip with fruit, things like that. But super simple, super fast. So let's get back to dinners. Another thing to keep it simple is just having kind of like a set theme for each night, each week. And you can kind of get a little variety, but the more that you can be consistent and just eat the same stuff that you enjoy, the more it's going to just be repetitive and it's going to be a lot more of something you can stick to. Okay, so Monday night for us and my family, we're typically doing some sort of seafood, whether it be shrimp or salmon or tilapia or cod or fish sticks. We might go to Costco. They've got this Parmesan crusted tilapia in a bag, frozen up, already ready to go. And then we'll pair it up with either rice or mixed vegetables and rice or a stir fry. We might do really any kind of carbohydrate side. And they've got them all laid out at Costco. Or if you wanted to just throw some rice in the pan and get some rice going with it, you could do that as well. Okay. Tuesday night is typically Mexican food. So we're doing either tacos or some sort of easy thing like that. So we're getting, 93.7 macro-friendly beef. We're cooking it up. Or 93.7 turkey. And then, sorry, my nose is itching. And then we pair that up, with maybe a low-fat cheese. And you might be asking, why low-fat? Why are you keep saying low-fat? Every gram of fat is 9 calories. Every gram of carb and every gram of protein is 4 calories. It's not that fat's bad, it's that it adds up really, really fast. And so the calories add up almost twice as fast as carbs and proteins. So you have to be very cautious of your fat intake because it's going to be really easy to make it go through the roof. It's really easy to overconsume and be in a calorie surplus if you're consuming extra fat. That's why I get really careful about assigning or letting my clients eat things like peanut butter, because 1 tablespoon of peanut butter is about 100 calories, and a true measured tablespoon is way different than a scoop of tablespoon. So just keep that in mind as I'm mentioning low fat. It's because our ratio has to be in a certain way. And if you want to have that good balanced diet where a third of your diet is protein, a third is carb, and a third is fat, your fat intake needs to be much lower, because every gram is over twice as much as the carb and the protein. So I hope that makes sense. It's just something to kind of think about. I knew I didn't know about it until I, became a nutritionist and got into nutrition. So, all right. So going back to our nights, Wednesday night, we typically do some sort of pork loin or steak or something paired up with a vegetable and maybe some sweet potatoes. We either bake the sweet potato, we either chop it up and air fry it. We might do a white potato. It's some sort of meat and potato on a Wednesday night. Thursday nights, we're doing some kind of pasta. So it might be a chickpea protein pasta. Right now, Costco's got this Brahmi protein pasta. Again, throw it in some boiling water. Boom, you got yourself. Throw some chicken breast into the air fryer with some Italian seasoning, and then put some either whatever pasta sauce you like, and you got yourself a dinner. You could put peas and vegetables in the pasta as well. You can pair it up with a salad, whatever it might be. That's typically what we do on Thursday nights, some kind of pasta. Friday, we're usually making a pizza. Again, we try to do it really simple. V-Shred has a recipe, and I share it with my clients, but it's a non-bread. So you use the non-bread, you just put pizza toppings on the non-bread, and that's your single serving pizza that you can have on Friday nights. Saturday, we usually do burgers with a 93.7 ground beef. And then we find maybe we either use a regular bun or we might use a low calorie bun, so that way we can add in some homemade fries with it, or we just use a regular bun and then vegetables. And then usually Sunday might be breakfast for dinner, right? We might do a breakfast for dinner, make it macro friendly. Again, we look at doing whole eggs, but not a whole bunch of whole eggs. We put in some egg whites to get that right macronutrient ratio. Because if you're just doing all whole eggs, your fat content is going to be much higher than it should be. So that's as simple as it can be. Sunday night sometimes might be leftovers. It might be barbecue. I live in Kansas City, so or it might even be going out to a restaurant and kind of paying attention to that. So it kind of depends on your goals, but even in a calorie deficit, you can go to a restaurant, plug it into an app like MyFitnessPal, and still be within your range. So, these are all the things that we learn as we're going through all of this, and we're going through this process of meal prepping. And I tell you this because back in the day, I would spend a whole Sunday just grilling up a bunch of chicken. I would boil a bunch of potatoes. I would cook a bunch of rice. I would do all of this stuff. And then I started to realize that, nowadays it's so easy to get protein and it's so easy to get these things in a lot more convenient way. And I can spend my Sundays not necessarily cooking all day long. I can go on a hike with my family and enjoy a little more rest and R&R on a Sunday. So this is kind of my take on meal prep. It might not be exactly what you were looking for, but again, I'm here to make this as simple as I possibly can for you. And, even ideas around lunch, tuna is like ready to go, boom, right away. A couple days ago, I went to a gas station. I got six hard-boiled eggs. They're about 75 cents each, and that was my lunch. But that's kind of how we do it. So the way that it lays out the overarching priorities is number one is your energy intake. How much are you taking in? How much is going out, okay? If you're not tracking your calories, then it comes down to really paying attention to your body and how you feel. And then definitely, no matter what, at least track your protein. That is a must for everybody, no matter what. And eventually that becomes very second nature because you know what your portion sizes look like and how much protein a day you should be taking in. But 95% of people aren't taking in enough protein, okay? So, I usually do mostly protein for breakfast or no breakfast, mostly protein for lunch, and then I backfill the rest of my day at night with whatever I want for dinner, those simple things I talked about, a little sweet treat to sort of equal up my caloric intake that I need to be at. And that puts me right in that 220 grams of protein. And then my caloric intake in a deficit right now is 2,500. And so that's what I do. If I'm trying to cut, if I'm trying to maintain, then I'm at about 3,000. And that's the thing too, is if you are tracking your calories, great. You want to be in a slight deficit. You really don't want to crash diet. You want to be in this fine little slight deficit where you're preserving muscle, you're preserving your metabolism, and you're losing just fat. Because if you go below the deficit, you start crash dieting, your body's going to stall. Your metabolism is going to go down because it's going to get used to eating a lot lower food. And then you're just going to be losing muscle, and you're going to be losing water, and you're going to be losing everything. Water, muscle, fat, it's all going to go away. And then you just kind of look malnourished. So you're going to look much healthier, getting in a resistance training routine, exercising, eating enough food to feed your body and get those nutrients. And that's really what's going to help you have more of an athletic look, more of the look that you're probably going for. We often see this a lot. I think the GLP-1 shots are a great thing for the society as a whole and the obesity epidemic. But the problem is a lot of people aren't eating enough food on them. And so then they're losing a lot of strength. They're losing balance. They're falling. They're losing muscle. And so you have to really make sure that you're getting this protein in and that you're getting a good strength training routine. And again, it goes back to that identity, right? We want to change our identity, that you're a strong person, that you're focusing on getting stronger. The more that you can focus away from being so obsessed with the scale and being more obsessed with getting strong and being a strong person, the more that everything kind of falls in line. You're going to wake up someday and you're going to be like, man, my glutes look toned and I'm looking good in all the right places and I'm looking leaner in all the right places. And nobody's going to know what the scale says, right? So it really comes down to that. It comes down to feeling strong, feeling energetic, and your clothes fitting better, And then at the end of the day, who really cares how much the weight or the scale says? So that's my advice to you is chase strength and, continue making this meal prep as easy as you possibly can. There's so many easy ways. For the longest time, my lunch was just rotisserie chicken and 90-second rice packs. And that was my lunch. So there's so many ways to do it. You've got to find the easy ways and just remember your top two priorities. Your protein, whatever your goal weight is your protein in grams per day. And then start tracking your calories. How many calories a day do you eat? There's a lot of calculators out there. I always tell people, honestly, the best thing to do is just track what you're eating right now. Don't change anything, just track. And you'll get a set point for where you're at after a week. Take your average and you'll kind of get an idea of, this is what I'm taking in already. So now I need to lose weight. So let's subtract 500 calories a day from that amount. And then you're in that good 3,500 calorie per week deficit that's going to help you continually lose 1 solid pound of fat every week. People say 1 pound, that's not enough. It is. A pound of fat is about this big. So imagine every week losing about this much off your body. I don't think people realize when they see the scale only moving a little bit at a time, there's big chunks coming out of it. It's not just water weight. When you're getting in that slight deficit and you're eating protein and you're working out and you're getting strong, you're going to lose that right amount of stuff, okay? All right, so I'm probably going to cut this off here in just a minute. I do want to open it up for if there's any questions. I don't see any yet, but if there is a question in here anywhere, let me know And if not, when I end the video, I'll go back in the comments, and you can always, this video will be up, I think, during the whole week of this masterclass. So if you have any other questions for me, let me know. But like I said, I've been doing this for about 17 years, went through a transformation myself. I owned a gym for 10 years. I've competed in bodybuilding, played football, all the things. And so I've probably helped at least 1,000 people through different transformations. And I'm a VIP coach here. And if you're interested in the program and, taking the quiz, I put in my post the quiz link so that you can kind of see where your metabolism's at and talk to a specialist and see if, our VIP program might be a good fit for you. But with all that being said, I'm going to cut off here. And like I said, put questions in the comments. I'm here for you guys. I know what it's like. It's a lot. Don't make it complicated. It's really not complicated. Try to simplify this down. Life is too complicated. We're doing too much. We're doing this all day, and we're driving, and we're riding, and we're typing. Everything is just hitting our brains like crazy. So we have to sort of settle our nervous system down and really simplify this down. Okay, we don't make it complicated. So, all right, you guys. God bless, and we'll chat with you later.